G'day, it's Pete here, and today I wanted to go over my approach to dealing with unusual systems and look at how I think about bidding in general, how I try and understand what they're doing, even if it's a very unfamiliar situation, and then also give some tips and general strategies for actually coping with it in the bidding. So for starters, how do I actually approach bidding? So when you're coming up with a bidding system, there are two things that you're trying to answer. That is how high to go and what should be trumps. All bidding systems are trying to answer this. And the way that they generally do this is you want to put your hands into general categories, usually in one or two bids, sometimes more. And you might be thinking, oh, I'm minimum balanced, or I'm a medium strength two-suited hand. There'll be something about high card points, and there'll be something about the general shape. So how I actually break these up is I try and put them, am I a balanced hand? Or am I an unbalanced hand with one suit, two suits, three suits? And by suits, I mean 4 cards or longer. And then I also try and think of what point ranges am I in? Am I a minimum hand, medium hand, maximum hand, or do I have extra values? And different systems might rearrange these point values, and that's fine. But what you want to be thinking about is, well, this is how they've bid it, but if you can sort of just transpose it to how you would bid it, it makes it a lot more familiar about what they're actually trying to show. So try and think of when you see an auction come up, you don't need to worry about every individual bid they make, but as they've described their hand, are they that balanced medium hand or that maximum two-suited hand? What have they tried to show? And if you can put it in terms like that, you'll be in a good spot for how you would actually bid it, and then you can understand what their hand might actually look like, even though you don't understand their system. Now, usually when people are doing an unusual system, I won't be asking questions throughout unless I think it might impact my bidding. So if I know I'm going to pass, I'll just be passing. If you might be considering a bid or not, go ahead, ask a question. But I like to ask questions at the end, try and get as much information as possible. Now, what I want to look at is just a few variations of how this might actually work. So one unusual system that you might not be familiar with might be ACOL. Now, here I just want to highlight how standard players bid it and how ACOL bidders bid it, and you can see how to actually transpose that. So one major change between standard and ACOL is how you show your balanced hands. So if you're playing standard, you might open one of a minor and rebid one no trump to show your minimum balanced hand, and you'd just open one no trump to show your medium balanced hand. This is actually just reversed for ACOL. That they'll open one no trump and then they'll just bid with 12 to 14, and with 15, a strong no trump, they'll bid one of a suit and then rebid one no trump. So if you can see, that's just what the switch they're making. It's a lot easier to appreciate what sort of hand type they're actually trying to show. Another system you might not be familiar with is precision. And what do they do with that? So again, here, when looking at standard, when you've got that really strong hands, what you'd typically open is 2 clubs. And you'd do that for really strong 1-suiters, 2-suiters, 3-suiters, or anything above a 2 no trump opening with a balanced hand. And you'll be opening 2 clubs with those. Precision doesn't do that. They use strong club. So they'll actually be opening 1 club, and they'll be doing it for all of these and even some of the medium hands. It's usually 16 or more points. So they've just taken a whole range of those bids, an extra row, if not more, and put it into 1 club at this lower level. And this means when they open anything else, they'll typically be in this range. Okay, maybe 12 to 15, maybe a little bit wider. And if you can just appreciate that as they bid the hand out, you just want to think which of these categories will they actually be putting themselves in. Another bid that you might not be familiar with in precision is the 1 diamond opening. And this might seem really foreign. It's like 1 or more diamonds, 11 or 15 points. But which of these hand types can they actually have? Well, they might have their balanced hand, and you want to check what their 1 no trump range is, but their balanced hand that's outside of their 1 club opening, they might open 1 diamond and then rebid 1 no trump. Okay, and then they've just shown maybe their minimum balanced hand. Or they might have a 1 suited with diamonds, and they might open 1 diamond and then bid 2 diamonds. Or they might have a two-suitor with diamonds and clubs, and you might not actually know which one's longer. They might have longer clubs than diamonds. Bit of an unusual thing, but they'd still be showing a two-suited hand with the minors. They might bid something like this. Or they could have another two-suitor hand with diamonds and a major or something like that. But in all of these, what they're typically doing is they'll show what they've got. And when they're that minimum balanced hand, that's usually when they could have their short diamond. And maybe their clubs are longer. You want to look at what their other options are for what they can show. And if in doubt, you can always ask them, oh, when is your suit only 1+ or 2+? And they should be able to give you a bit of an idea onto that. So this is the general approach that I like to think. So every system is trying to bid a hand type like this in 1 bid or 2 bid. You don't need to know what they've got, but after their second bid, you want to think, am they balanced minimum? Are they a medium 2-suitor? Are they a 3-suitor maximum? What sort of hand shape and point range are they actually showing? And it's not always obvious after the first bid, but usually after 2 bids, it will become apparent. So just then try and think, okay, well, how would I be bidding these ones? And lots of these ones you'd be bidding the same way. In standard, you might just be opening 1 club instead of this, and that might be all the difference that it actually is. And the main difference is they might not have highlighted their best suit or something like that. But in general, they are showing what they've actually got there. So again, as they're bidding, try and then just think, okay, which hand type are they trying to bid? And once it's become apparent, just think, okay, how would I bid it? And then you've got a good picture of what declarer's actually got. Another thing that can happen is you can get these really complicated auctions. Sometimes you might get an auction come up like this and like every bid is alerted. And then you're like, okay, well, what's going on? And then you get this explanation that they'll give you a really detailed explanation of one hand. Maybe they're like, hey, this hand has 5 hearts, 1 diamond, 3 clubs and 4 spades and 12 or more points. And what about the other hand? And they're like, oh, these were all just relays, right? Sometimes people play very artificial systems where one hand just keeps asking questions, not actually showing what they've got. And the other hand describes lots about their hand, and then the other hand just sets the contract. And if they've done well, they usually get the hand that has asked the questions to be playing the hand. Occasionally they mess it up, and then after the lead, you'll know everything about the hand. But what do you do when someone's like, this is a relay, and just described everything about the other hand? Well, let's just think about it in terms of coming back to what you're trying to achieve in normal bidding systems. You want to answer how high should we go and what should be trumps. All of these questions are about that. And you can actually infer from the questions that they ask what they've got in their hand. So, for instance, let's say that South had shown 5 hearts and they've still chosen 3 no trumps. Great. We know that declarer doesn't have a fit in hearts, or else they'd be choosing hearts usually. Also, maybe they showed only 3 spades, okay? In which case, declarer doesn't have a 5-card spade suit, because otherwise they'd be playing in that spade. So you want to think, all right, they'd be looking for their major suit fits if they have them. Look at what length that person's shown. If they haven't done that, okay, the other hand doesn't have it. The next thing that I like to ask is also, what questions were you asking when? Because as soon as they know how high to go and what should be trumps, they would set the contract. If they knew that they had no hope of slam and no major suit fits, they'd probably just be bidding 3 no trumps on the second bid, or getting there as quickly as possible. They wouldn't be asking all the questions unnecessarily. So they're still trying to find something out. So let's say that the South hand said, oh, I've got 8 or more points. And then they said, I've got like 8 to 10 points, not 12 plus or 11 plus or whatever. And that's when the North player stopped. You'd know that the North player had more points, that if they were stronger than that range, then maybe they would be interested in slam. So you can sort of look for and like reverse engineer, what does that hand actually have? What questions are they asking? why haven't they chosen a major suit fit? What's actually going on there. So that's how I like to approach when the opponents are playing very artificial systems, alerting every bid. I'll usually wait till the end of the auction, ask them what's been shown. I then think, okay, they haven't they haven't found a major suit fit, haven't looked for slam, or if they have, what have they actually shown? And thinking about it in terms of that, and then thinking, well, what hands don't fit into that category? Not perfect, but you'll get a great description of one hand, and then you just have to infer about the other one from that. So that's how I usually handle those. So the next thing I want to touch on is, well, what should you bid? Like, what should your bids actually mean in various spots? So I want to give just a few general rules. Usually, if you come across one particular system a lot, you can probably improve on this. But what I want to give is a good sort of just general standing that you can use so that you've come up across this once. It'll keep you in good stead. If you keep coming across it, then maybe you can refine it and actually do better against it. So the first one is like, let's say you come across a strong club. What should you be doing if they open a strong club? Now, let's just go back and look at what hand types they are showing with this. So a one club opening is sort of all of these hand types and half of the medium hand types as well. So it can be any of these. There is a lot packed into a one club opening. Anytime you come across a system which has one bid that entails lots and lots of potential hand types, what is really effective against doing that is bidding. If you take away space from them, it's harder for them to actually unpack that. So if you want to make life awkward, when you know that there is a bid that contains lots and lots of different hand types in it, then bidding over it's really, really effective. The more narrow the hand type is, like for instance, if you open two no trumps playing standard, that is a very narrow description and a very strong one. There isn't very much upshot in bidding over it. But if all these bids are encapsulated by one club, getting in and taking away space makes it more difficult for them to be bidding. So first of all, the more you think they have jam-packed into an individual bid, the more beneficial it is for you to be aggressive and overcall and take away space from them in the bidding so that they can't unpack this. So firstly, if you're playing against a strong club, don't be afraid of trying to bid suits and take space away from them. The next thing I want to touch on is, well, what should like doubles be in different spots? So in general, there's a lot of unusual things that you can come up across, and it's important to appreciate what the double is. If you ever come across opponents that pre-alert you to a particular system, for instance, some people might be playing standard, but they play transfer responses, and they might have it be that one heart here shows spades, right? So if they do that, what you want to discuss in your partnership, importantly, is what a double is. Now, a general guideline to fall back on, again, this isn't perfect, but a simple approach that can be used is if the people are doing an artificial bid that shows a particular suit, you can have double just be takeout of the suits that they're showing if takeout doubles are still useful for your side. If they're doing artificial things that are higher, usually you want to be doing lead directing doubles. So if they had a precision auction, for instance, instead, and you double and like like all these bids were alerted, and 3 diamonds doesn't say anything about diamonds, and your side has no purpose in making takeout doubles at this stage, usually these sorts of doubles would want to be lead directing doubles. Another unusual type of bid that might come up is like sometimes people's defenses to no trumps can be pretty strange. So your side might have opened a no trump and then the opponents overcall something. And if 2 diamonds says nothing about diamonds and it doesn't actually specify what suits they've got, but they have a hand that wants to overcall. Maybe they've got like hearts or the black suits or something unusual. How do you cope with that? Again, it's important to appreciate what is double in these spots. So if there's no known suits here, double for takeout's not too relevant. What I would usually use double for here is just values. So I like to consider, in these unusual situations, do you want your double to be a lead directing double showing that particular suit? Do you want the double to be takeout of the suits showing? Or do you want the double to be values? And you just want to think, well, which of these are appropriate for the general situation? So as you see what unusual stuff they've come up with, and the more familiar you are with your partner, you can see what general rules would apply. But understanding what your double is in lots of these situations is really key to how you want to progress from there. So again, the three usual ways that I would be playing a double is either take out of the suits they're showing, lead directing, or values. And you want to have a specific guideline for which is which of these. And then the final thing that I want to touch on is sometimes you'll come across people that play what seems to be very destructive sort of agreements. They're like hyper aggressive, really trying to throw you off. What should you do in those general spots? So a couple of examples of that might be, you might see a mini no trump where one no trump is like 8 to 12 high card points, like really weak. Or maybe it's a really unusual type of preempt. What they're usually doing is they're being hyper aggressive, trying to disrupt auctions and make life miserable for you. And you might get this feeling that you're being robbed by them. And you might, but there's not a great way to overcome that. And if you get too aggressive yourself, you'll find yourself getting penalized usually, because their system's usually set up to try and punish people that get in the way and try and bid. And if you do it too hyper aggressively, you might find that your partner doesn't know when they should be raising. So the more aggressive the opponent's bids usually are, I like to be sound for them. So you don't need to try and overbid just because they're bidding very aggressively. You usually want sound bidding over that, so that partner can trust your bids and still try and bid to game contracts and get from there. Yes, you will get robbed sometimes, but also destructive bids are usually destructive for both sides, and it can be hard for them to untangle it as well. So just because they're being very aggressive doesn't mean that you should be too aggressive either. So I like to still have very sound bidding when the opponents are being very aggressive. Again, in any of these situations, if you come up with up against a specific opponent that you play frequently, you might want to refine these agreements. But these are hopefully here to keep you in good stead about how you can cope with unusual bidding systems that you come up with, don't have lots of time to prepare for. Anyway, thanks all for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.